So I'm Derek Brown, and I'm here at the Leger booth at NAMM 2024, and I thought I'd explain a little bit about slap tongue because I do it all the time. First of all, there's two types of slap tongues. There's the open slap, which gives that really percussive sound, and then there's the closed slap, which gives this kind of like slapped bass sound. And I, of course, like to combine those two with other stuff and with regular sax playing. Along with other techniques like double tonguing and whatnot. Slap tonguing is probably my most useful technique, and unfortunately it's the hardest one to learn. I hear a lot of slap tonguers, kind of earlier slap tonguers that sound like this. This is as good as they can get with their slap, their closed slap. They go. And so I'll just give my 2 cents on how I slap tongue. Taking your regular reed, now I do it on these Leger reeds because they're just super long lasting, but you can do it on any reed. But I like to put it upside down, put it on your tongue, and you're gonna try to pull the reed off and get your tongue to stick to it. Not by grabbing onto the reed, but by a suction. And you can use a lot of the tongue here or a little, but it's gonna look like this. So what I'm doing there is I'm actually trying to make a plunger shape with my tongue. And one of the ways I think, well, one, if you can do this, that's helpful. It's not just that, because you need to also make a bowl shape. So you need to also be able to bend up the tip and the back. So I like to think of like making this shape, lifting up the back of my tongue, but also using the front of my teeth to kind of pull down the front. One other way to think about it, if you can't do this, is if you think about the shape of your teeth, that kind of makes a semicircle. If you make your tongue nice and wide over your teeth like that and bring down your tongue is gonna naturally make this kind of concave shape. So if I do this and push down the finger, like that, it's gonna kind of naturally wrap around the reed. Now the issue is you have to do that in such a small area on this reed. So a couple other tips that I like to suggest are use as big of reeds as possible. Even if you're an alto player or a clarinet player, borrow a bari sax reed or bass clarinet reed and try with that. Another thing is the softer the reed, the better. And then if you can get that, which I think it shouldn't take more than like a couple of weeks of just a little bit every day, just trying that, because the first couple times you try it, you're not gonna get it all. Then you put it on the mouthpiece, learning to use less and less of my tongue. Notice if I'm playing regular notes, I don't wanna go. I wanna have it as close to my regular embouchure as possible. So maybe when I first started, it was like this. But then over time, maybe then, a couple weeks later, and then a little bit later, and then a little bit later. I don't know how much you can see that, but you need just surprisingly very little of the tongue to do it. I mentioned the two types of slap tonguing, the open slap and the closed slap. The open slap is a lot easier at first because you don't have to get the correct embouchure. You're just getting that suction, pulling it down, and when you do that, you just have an open jaw. The more, it's also just as rewarding, but it's a little harder to do, is the closed slap, and that, to get a pitch with it, what you actually have to do is you have to bite hard enough on the heart of the reed so that that tip actually closes up at the top, so that when you pull down on the reed with your tongue and let go, that tip goes back up. The reed goes back up and hits the tip and slaps the tip of the mouthpiece. That's why it's called a slap tongue, because you're pulling it back and you're letting go and it shoots up and hits the tip. If you don't do that, it just vibrates in place and doesn't make that sound. Listen to what happens. I will start slap tonguing, closed slap with a normal embouchure, and you'll hear it's not gonna be very pure, and then I'm gonna gradually bite harder and you'll hear how the tone becomes more pure. So regular embouchure to then biting harder. And there it is. I'll do that again. So that's me biting harder to close it off so that once again, when you pull it back, it's a slingshot, thunk, and it slaps against the reed. A smaller tip opening is key, because I mentioned you have to bite down on that reed. You have to bite enough for that reed to close. So I'll admit, when I started on a Jody DV8 Star, and it was way wide, so I really had to bite that thing closed, which not only would be tiring, but the pitch would go up, because that's the thing too, the pitch goes up. And so I went down and down, and now Jody Jazz makes this amazing DV beatbox that's a 5, yet it still has the characteristics of a, you know, kind of a powerful, maybe more jazz or contemporary mouthpiece. And speaking of that, I thought I'd talk about my whole setup, because you know, people ask, do you have to have a special horn to do this, Derek? The truth is you don't need to really, but I do have this cool horn. It's the P. Moriat System 76 Derek Brown beatbox sax. Yes, you read that right. That's pretty cool. Of course, Saxfly did a post on this a little bit ago about my modifications on my original P. Moriat System 76. And anyways, the company ran with it and said, hey, let's make a horn with these exact modifications. And so this is that horn. And so, yes, you know, a lot of what I'm doing has to do with this thumb hook, hitting on that. And so this horn comes with 2 different thumb hooks, one that's shorter so you can get this up and down motion. It does come with a regular one. But even subtle things like shortening this guard here to give yourself more room. And then there's a whole can of worms that have been opened where it's like, well, if we're gonna hit the sax with rings, why don't we have the sax come with 2 rings, and then you can hit it on different parts. You can do different grooves and extra things, hit on the bottom, even like, you know, different little, what are these things called?
Guiro or something?
Guiro, yeah. So even in an additional fingering thing, I'd like to do these high C's with the F sharp key. So anyways, it's just an amazing horn all around playing. It doesn't have to be for beatbox playing, but it's so cool that they added these fun little percussive things that I do all the time. Of course, I play on Leger reeds just because they're amazing. They're the same one to the next. I don't have to worry about them warping, and I am putting these things through hell on earth with my tongue, all the things I'm doing, and they always last. So Leger now has the American cut, which is the brighter end. They have the French cut, the darker end. I just love still right in the middle with the signature. I would be happy with any of them, but I just love the flexibility of the signature. But like I said, you could do it on any reed. And I know that the American cut is actually a little bit of a wider reed, so that might be a great one to work on slap tonguing with. So those are amazing, as well as a BG ligature, a Duo Series soprano that just happens to fit really well on this metal mouthpiece. And the last thing I'll say about slap tonguing is, because it's such a hard thing to do, but it's so worth it. There are such cool things you can do with slap tongue. Not just the tone, the cool sound you can make, but there are things like you can actually breathe in while slap tonguing. And I don't mean circular breathing. I mean, you don't even need to push any air through the horn, so you can breathe in through your nose or mouth. Check this out. So if I'm gonna point out and in when I'm breathing. So watch this. Look at my mouth is open. I'm breathing in through my nose and mouth. Because all you're hearing is the sound of that reed slapping against the tip, and it's kind of like the sound of going like this. It's like identical. It's the exact same thing. You don't have to put any air. So a lot of times people will ask when I'm playing, you know, when I'm going. They'll say, Derek, when do you actually breathe when you're performing? Because you're playing nonstop. And when I'm doing that staccato stuff, I'm not doing circular breathing. I'm breathing when I'm slap tonguing. I'm going. Because you can, all that is my tongue. I can breathe in. So that's one of the cool things. Another thing is, like, if you ever play clarinet, I don't know how many of you play clarinet, but the low end on a clarinet is very easy. You can play it pianissimo. You can tongue down there. It's so easy. And on saxophone, that's one of the kind of the weaknesses of the instrument. It's usually like, you know, it's hard to play soft down low unless you slap tongue. I don't know if you can hear that at the NAMM show, but it's so easy because there's something about that articulation. When you get that slap, it just boom, it gets the reed, it just gets vibrating perfectly. I even have sometimes, if I have leaks in the horn, I can get the low notes out all the time because of the slap tongue. It just gets the notes out. The other thing is doing large leaps like I'll sometimes do. I could do that all day long because that slap tongue on the low notes, it just boom, it just gets the notes. So anyways, if you want to learn more, look at my Beatbox Sax channel. I have a bunch of demos. I also have a new etude book called Beatbox Sax Etudes that starts people from the very beginning of my techniques, beginner to advanced. Check it out. Hope you enjoy it. But otherwise, thanks, Sax Money. Take care, guys.